Prayed just now.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Okay, tell people what you do and who you are.
Okay, so my name is Azinat, and I teach English in Russia, in south of Russia actually. And but now, like after 7 years of teaching, I mostly work online, so with different countries and with different people all over the world, which is very pleasant because due to COVID, I wasn't able to travel, so it's nice to see it. People like the world, the rest of the world, through other people's eyes, my students' eyes. So yeah.
That's very
Otherwise,
interesting.
you know,
Okay, keep going.
yeah, I just ask questions. I'm gonna keep talking for hours if you don't stop me.
Oh, okay, sure. What you do has seems to really have helped so many people really effectively with English. They're really happy.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. It's better if you ask them, but still, I think that yeah, many people they have changed over the period of time that we were studying. Like apart from English language, I give a lot of interesting materials that are, they sometimes they're useful for self-development. So I think many people also gain from that, not only from English, but I think just English as it is as a second language or a foreign language, it gives you different opportunities. You start seeing the world differently. You gain more experience. You can Google things differently and see different, view of the world. So yeah, that's a very
Yeah,
pleasant work.
sure. Yeah, and not many people speak English in the place that you're from, right?
Well, a lot of people do. They would understand if there's a traveler and they need help. I think as it is studied in schools, starting from the second grade, and there's an official exam at the end of the education, school education. But still, like as a practical skill, it's not very common to meet people who speak fluently, unfortunately.
Okay. How did you learn English though?
I've been interested in traveling my whole life. I liked that idea of speaking different languages and fathoming the culture through the language. And I remember I was like 4 or 5 years, and I already knew that there are different languages. And my parents, they kept talking about France and traveling to France, and I pretended I speak different languages, like I didn't speak anything, but I pretended I could do that. So I love that idea of speaking different languages because these are different mindsets and different cultures. So language, I think, is number one that gives you a key to the different mindset and different culture.
That's very interesting. Have you been to, have you been anywhere outside traveling after that?
Yeah. Because I found like very early, I found friends who were good partners for me in practice, and I found American people who lived in my native city somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and I kept practicing with them. So by 20, I traveled to the States, like with this, what was that program, work and travel program. So
Okay.
it was very seamless after such long practice with my friends. I just arrived in States. Although it was my first large traveling, I haven't been even to like megapolises before. And there I felt like it's my homeland. Everything was so easy and yeah, it felt very natural.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So being with English people really helped you, right?
Yeah.
To learn the language?
Yeah, definitely. And I was inside Russia, but just because I was exposed to the culture and people speaking that with that accent, it was easier for me to integrate into American culture. So I've been in the States 3 times, like in 2010, 11, and 2018. I returned to the States for after a long period. Apart from that, I've been to Turkey, I've been to Spain, to Italy, to England just 3 years ago, and in 2019. Yeah, I love traveling. Whenever I have money, I always save money to just for traveling. I don't like fur coats or cars or anything. The most valuable thing for me is experiences and traveling.
Yeah, I agree with you because when you're traveling, what you're earning is unforgettable moments, right?
Mm.
It's not
Yep.
material things. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. What is US like?
US. Oh well, it felt very different, but at the same time very natural to me. Probably because my mindset was more of like I don't know, modern maybe for the area where I live. I always liked bright clothes and like modern thinking and new ideas and freedom and all those things. So to me, it was rather natural to be exposed to that culture because people were rather positive. I like this culture of small talk. If you're in a shop, somebody's gonna say, "Oh, you have such nice something like clothes
Right.
or maybe scarf," and they're just being friendly because well, that's the culture. And I love that about that because in Russia, this is a Russian smile. People don't smile in Russia, and that's very serious always. And they say, "Oh, smiling people, it's a sign of stupidity." So yeah, to me it
Really?
was, yeah, it felt better, to have this positive, just like environment. So I like that about, oh, everything's very clean. And I finally realized why people, I remember when I was younger, people in my country, they would say, oh, why do these Americans wear shoes inside the house? That's so strange. Like, why would they wear that and sitting on a sofa in their shoes? It was like, nonsense for us. But when I
Yeah.
traveled there, I realized that everything is so clean, like the outside areas,
Mm,
like the streets are super clean. And whenever you step inside the house, your shoes are clean as if they're from a shop or, something, even no dust. So yeah, I realized that that's the problem. I mean, not the problem. I mean, that's the reason why they don't take off the shoes sometimes. So yeah, little details.
wow.
These are, yeah, fun little details to notice.
Yeah. I mean, that's unbelievable, that their streets are that clean that they can wear their shoes at home on
I
couch.
Yeah, I was wondering how do they do that because we have dirt like and dust and I couldn't imagine how you can get rid of that. But what they do is they use the mulching, I think it's called, like the trees barks, like pieces of the tree bark, and they put it as like on the roadsides where the dirt is. Like when it's raining, the dirt is not flying into the like towards the road. It just stays there and it's covered. And I'm like, that was just surprising how they could manage that. Or maybe probably they clean a lot also, but still they would
Yeah,
have
that's
like, yeah, white carpets like this thick. I'm like, how do they keep all these things clean? So you know.
yeah, that's really impressive. And these people are really sophisticated. Yeah.
Well, not all of them. There are many differences. Cultures are always different on different levels. So some things are better, some things are ridiculous and strange sometimes. That's why it's called cultural shock sometimes when people, oh, how can they do that? When you come travel to another city or country and you can't fathom something. So that's the fun part about cultures, I think. Just learning the differences and comparing and enjoying the things that you like, and sometimes being exposed to some things that you are not used to. So that way it expands your mindset, changes you to a
Yeah.
point. Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Also, there are so many more people. Like there are a lot of people in US as compared to Russia. Is that right?
I'm not sure because the areas where I lived, some of them were crowded, like New York. It has a lot of
Hmm.
people. The population is more dense.
Yeah.
However, the first year when I traveled there, I've been to Virginia, and Virginia it's not very densely populated area. There's been a city that had just like 7,000 people, and for me it was like so calm, and that people were, not in a hurry, not in a rush. They were like the average
Chill.
person in that city. Yeah, the Williamsburg, it's actually called Virginia. It's like the average age is above like 40 or 50. So people are like rather elderly in those cities. So it's super calm and, chilly. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
The
chilly.
streets. Yeah. The streets are sometimes lonely, right?
Yeah, but still, because of the architecture, they still look nice and cozy, and it's
Mm.
yeah, doesn't
Yeah, they're
seem
nice.
lonely and dangerous or anything.
Okay. Uh, the place that you live, is it really cold? Because Russia is really cold, heard. Yeah.
Well, to me, it is cold because I love hot weather and summer and 36 degrees Celsius. For me, it's super comfortable. For people, they are dying here, like, oh my God, it's so hot. And
Yeah.
to me, yeah, to me, it is cold, but it's the hot, one of the hottest regions of Russia. So it's, if you're born in Russia, it's not a bad place to be if you love hot climate. So
Okay,
that's
that's a
good.
good thing. Yeah, that's lucky for you, I guess.
Hmm.
And
It is.
I also heard that there are places in Russia that are the coldest places on Earth.
Oh yeah, there are some Oimakon, if I'm not mistaken, that's the name of the city. Oh my God, that's been like minus 60 or 80 degrees minus. That's ridiculous. I remember there were like some TV broadcasts on New Year's Eve when they opened the champagne. It instantly freezes. You almost have no chance to pour it and drink it because once you open it, it's frozen. So yeah,
Wow,
it's very
instantly?
cold. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
average temperature that they have.
Oh, how did you guys manage living in those temperatures, inhumane temperatures?
I guess that's why people are not very smiley here. Well, some people when they ask them and they say, "Well, I love summer and I can't imagine how I could be comfortable in winter because I have to wear so much clothes." And they say, "Well,
Hmm.
it's better that way because if it's summer and it's super hot, you can't do anything about it. You just can't sleep. It's you're sweating and everything. But if it's cold, you can just put on some clothes and you'll be fine. And it's like, if it's cold, just put on some more clothes. I'm like, doesn't work for me. It's still, yeah, I'm suffering from that.
Yeah, cold is uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. But you get used to that. Like what any lifestyle, we adapt very quickly as human beings. So I think they adapt to that. Like so.
Yeah, for sure. Even our bodies are adapted to whatever they need to adapt to, the environment that they're born in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You'll be surprised how quickly we adapt. I remember I had one experience. It's been my whole life. I've felt cold in outside, summertime. But I remember one year I had to walk a lot because I had a lot of students and I had to have classes in their homes, and I had to walk from one place to another. And I would spend at least like 15, 20 minutes between classes. And there were like 3 or 4 classes a day. So I spent like around an hour outside walking. And I realized that with it by winter, I had adapted to those temperatures like gradually, and I felt almost hot in winter. Like, oh, it's fine. It's not even
Hmm.
so cold. So yeah, our bodies adapt very quickly, but if you give them systematic, trials, so it
Yeah,
is
they're
possible.
super smart. Yeah.
Mhm. That's how we
Yeah, yeah.
survived, and
Yeah.
almost dominated this planet.
And do you make any changes like in eating styles, like, you know, eat like for example, the peanuts and sesames, these are the foods that provide heat to the body, right?
Uh-huh.
So any diet changes because of cold?
Vodka. Yeah, some people make
Yeah,
jokes.
alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol, it really helps actually sometimes. Also, I would say that just a lot of calories. People eat a lot of calories. For example, a lot of meat, I would say, and there's like Ukrainian and Slavic, like Russian culture. They also have this sala. Sala is actually pork fat, I believe. So they have like a
Okay.
big piece of fat, basically. Cut it and put it on the bread and eat. So yeah, a lot of calories actually help to preserve heat and keep temperature up.
Right. Yeah. That's the one thing about cold, that you won't get fat, no matter how much you eat.
Well, yeah. If you're outside, if you sit at home, sedentary lifestyle, I think, is a problem all over the world. So if you sit at home, you'll get that sooner or
Yeah.
later. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for someone that loves traveling, I too have a dream just like you of traveling, and
Mhm.
I haven't been to many places. I haven't started yet, but I want to. So, what have you learned from your experiences overall traveling?
Oh, well, a lot. Well, first of all, logistics, I would say, because I'm an economist and my education background actually gives me this, opportunity to, like, combined with languages, I can find so many ways of traveling cheaper than like a touristic agency would offer me. So, and that way I love it, even if the same, like the expenses, even if they're the same, and I could be comfortable with the, a touristic agency, I don't have to think about all those details. Still I could buy and purchase the different experience. So I would live in the center of the old city and choose some specific, like, not a hotel, maybe even like a guest house that is going to be very, authentic, and people are going to speak, and they're going to be different from those touristic areas where you travel. For example, with the case of Turkey, there are so many Russian tourists in Turkey, and sometimes it feels like you didn't even leave Russia if you are there. I heard some stories. So when I traveled to Turkey, I actually booked everything on my own. So instead of being isolated in a hotel somewhere on the 60 kilometers from the city, I was actually in the city of Antalya, and in the center of the city. It has a region that is called, like, a district that is called Kaleiçi. It's like a central bay that was like the beginning of the city, and now it's like 1 million sized city. And I could live like in those narrow streets and like old area, and live in a one guest house that has a nice rooftop view to the bay, and it was like a very different
Wow.
experience. I would talk to people, to locals, and like I would eat local food. I would have a chance to see some local historic sites and three different beach areas, and you could travel and like see people in the area instead of being in an isolated, artificial world created by the touristic agency. Ooh, this is a nice hotel, and inside the hotel everything is perfect, but you never meet any local people and any local culture, and you're far away from the different areas where you can't move around easily. You have to take a taxi and spend like 2 hours traveling somewhere to actually see a city or something.
Yes, I think that's the best way to travel as well. So many people visit these places and they only stay at these hotels, and then they never they never meet the local cultures and local people, and then they
So
don't try to understand the culture. I don't think that's a real traveling experience.
yeah, as I say, half truth is worse than a lie, because if you kind of, well, I've been to that country, it was boring. You can say that because
Mm,
you would
yeah.
have this half truth experience where you were shown something that you want to see. You were not exposed to something that forced you to come outside your comfort area and like comfort zone and actually see the culture, see the differences, see the troubles and beauties of the different place that where you travel. So I think that independent traveling is much better than touristic traveling, and it helped me a lot because I could save money and I could plan in advance and have my own the best combination of everything.
Yeah, you can do what you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Has traveling changed you as a human being?
Definitely, because the I traveled to the States when I was a student, so I didn't have an actual work experience like the serious work. I had only temporary jobs before that. So being in American business culture, I would say, yeah, the big companies. I worked in do you know Disneyland? Something like that. Like, so it's called Busch Gardens. This is like a very famous network of amusement parks. So I worked in that company. It was a big company, so we had like our uniforms. We had our training centers and like a huge community of workers and everything. So I was taught to work on a very high level, so to have this good work performance. And when I returned to Russia, and some things were very, I could see the difference now, and it would drive me crazy how people are like careless about things, and they don't care about their jobs, and they don't do high quality jobs, and it would drive me crazy because I could see that from the inside. I would have a different perspective to that. So That was one of the aspects. Then uh, traveling always expands your mindset. So it's sometimes it's difficult to go back to the area where people have only one way of seeing things. When you have like a multiple ways of seeing things, and you think, oh, it could be in this system, it could be this, in that system could be that. So we have more options sometimes, I would say. So yeah, it has changed me a lot.
Yeah, definitely. But people need to go to new places at least every year. That's what helps them get a new perspective on their own life. But people
Yeah.
just, stay at the same place all of their life, with the same perspective. That's not so evolving.
Yeah, and I would say even worse, sometimes people don't even travel around their own areas. They are so proud
Mm,
by their motherland, but they never get to see their motherland in reality. They see, oh, we have such beautiful something like mountains or something, and they never go to those mountains. They never go hiking. They never go skiing. And I'm like, this is so limiting, like the way you see the world. It limits the
mm,
way you see the world. And by 50, by 60, you become that, uh, almost a dead person because you stopped learning and
mm,
you are that person. I know that stuff and you don't want to learn. So that's actually my rule. Like I always want to stay open-minded and always want to
mm.
learn new things and see other perspectives. So that's my
Yeah,
philosophy.
this is amazing. People have this closed mind, that as you said, that they don't even explore around their own place, that not even their home country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
And
just an idea for ATM.
yeah, there's something to be said about, that thing. You should go climb the mountains or go surfing. These are the experiences that make you feel alive.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I agree with you so much.
Yeah, and I think, you remember the moments that you are most stimulated. You don't remember the moments sitting at the desk and working something that you don't like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, people definitely need to start endeavoring.
Yep. And I would also say that the earlier you start traveling, I think the better it is. If I had a chance to create an educative system for the whole world, I would have this concept of early traveling experiences where you, before you even, finish college or university, when you're not a child anymore, but still you're not an adult yet, and you don't have this
Mm,
formed, mindset. I'd say that that's the best time to travel because when you are young, you are exposed to different cultures, your mindset becomes more open. And once you start like narrowing down your practice to one job or one direction, you have like something that you can use later on after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Those memories are going to change who you are at the early stage because when
mm,
once people start working, they make their own money, they get settled into what their
mm.
culture is. And even if they travel, the quality of traveling is different because they don't want, oh, they're
Yeah.
tired, they don't want to make an effort to study that language. Ah, it's fine, and they'll speak my language, whatever. If they want me to buy something from them, of course they're going to speak my language, and that's why it's limited as it is by design.
Yeah, yeah. That inspires me because that's me, I need the age that you said that people should start traveling. That's me right now.
Oh yeah, so yeah, get a chance to travel.
For
Sometimes
sure.
there are many, like for young people there are so many different programs of exchange where you're not going to make more money, but you're not going to have to, spend a lot of money as well. You can volunteer for this program or that program, or maybe you can travel for some forum, like international forum for young people and stuff. There are many organizations that actually provide you with housing and even sometimes the travel costs. So it's not going to be as expensive because I think
Hmm.
with traveling, I think when especially when you come from like a country from that has a lower level of average income and you go to the country that is more developed, it requires a lot
Yeah.
of money, and that way it's not always even 1 year is not always enough to save them enough for the traveling. So yeah, volunteering programs is a very good like youth programs That could be a very, very interesting experience because you travel to another country, it's cheaper, and at the same time you acquire some amazing experience because you meet people from different countries, you build schools, or maybe you do something together, you play games, you have these activities. So that was my experience a couple of times, and if I was younger, I would use some of these. So maybe you should
Yeah,
consider that.
for
Especially with
sure.
your English. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's very, very educational when we do that. Yeah.
For example, I was wondering, there was like one program where you could have a contract for 2 years to
Mhm.
teach English in Japan. So you get paid. It's not as as highly paid job, but still, it's gonna get you some money to live there for 2 years. So that could be an amazing experience.
Yeah, but right now our motive is not to earn money. We are going because we want to travel, right? And we want to
Yeah, yeah,
learn.
exactly. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. So
yeah,
when you're young, it's perfect.
yeah. These experiences just make you a better human being.
Definitely.
Yeah. But so many people have these dreams, including me. I have a dream of traveling too, but they never get started. This they are fixed in these patterns that go to college, then get a job, and you know what happens when they get a job.
Mhm. Well, I think the world is changing every day, and those patterns, they're only in our mindset because we were told, oh, by 30 you have to have this, oh, by 22 you have to have an education. Unless you have education, you're not going to be successful or something. But these are mindsets that are shared by older generations. But the world changes faster now, and the world changes faster than that generation could ever imagine. And I think it's up to us to choose the lifestyle that is going to be best for us. And sometimes it's not as difficult. Traveling, even in your own country, in your own areas, sometimes is enriching, and you see some different places, and the most valuable thing is that you have new friends, you have new connections in your traveling. And sometimes after that, you can just visit your friends. Like I have so many connections now in all countries, and I could just no, I sometimes it's nice to know that a person is waiting for you somewhere to be their guest. And I think that's the most valuable thing about travels.
Yeah, for sure. Those people in the mountains. Those are the people. Those people are different. They're very kind. They're not like the business people. They're like real human beings. God made them to be. They're really kind. And when you meet them, those moments with them, you never forget them.
hmm Yeah, those are valuable things, and you could stay and you could get some experiences just because you respect them and you want to make connections with them. You get
Yeah.
experiences that are very, very rare and valuable. But by the end of the day, the money is just a very new concept, and it doesn't always make you happy. Yeah, it makes you comfortable, but not always happy. And I think those human connections, personal connections, those things make you happy, and those things are very valuable in life, I think.
100%. I think nothing can be better than that. What's better than that?
Yeah,
Nothing.
exactly. More traveling
Okay.
and more connections.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, let's transition from that to your English, okay, and your English coaching.
hmm
So,
Where
how
do I
did you get
start?
started with that? Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, with after just being interested in English language and having that as a serious hobby that I paid a lot of attention to, and I always tried to learn more, and I was always very enthusiastic about it. By 22, when I got my first job after university, I have been to the States. I had been to the States a couple of times by that time, and but eventually when I got to a my first job, actually, I it wasn't related to English language. It was like advertising agency, and I was like a manager. I would count things and communicate with people and designers and everything. But I just realized that my like people started asking me to be, oh, could you be like this, there's a like a conference, could you be like an interpreter there? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? So it was like one time events, and then over time some people asked me to do the translations, like written translations, and I was afraid, but I still said, well, yeah, I can try, and those I can try things. They came to the state where I could have like enough experience, but I never actually taught people like on a regular
Mm,
basis. And my friends basically forced me into that. Come
mm,
on, why would you sit in an office? Go and teach people. Have some interesting, like an English club or something. You can do that. Like, you can totally do that. You don't even have to have an office. So my friends, they pushed me that way. But I kept saying that, oh, I think in order to be a teacher, you have to be like almost godlike, to have that level
right.
where any
Yeah.
question you can answer any question and you're so knowledgeable
Mm,
and everything. And I'm not knowledgeable enough, and I was like always thinking and feeling that way. And they said, well, come on, don't worry too much about it. Like, just start, and then you'll learn as you go. But I never started
mm,
until they basically forced me. They said, "Oh, my friend of my friend, he wants to, have intensive courses before he travels to the States, so he doesn't look stupid there. And he's looking
mm,
for somebody who has speaking practice." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I could do that." So I took one person, two people, three people, like just friends of friends. And over time, because I
mm,
was worried and I was preparing every class, every material, I would gather things the way I see it. So over time, I got more, kind of comfortable with that, and I had more and more students. So at one point, I switched from my regular job to teaching English. So after 6 months, I basically had the same, like it was my real profession then after 6 months, like because I could, well, it would feed me like on the same level as any other job. So
yeah. So you said that you just have to get started and then you will learn along the way. What did you
yeah,
learn?
well, there are two different skills. When you teach people, one skill is your speaking skill, like your English as it is, as a speaker. But the other thing is teaching. Well, as I say, like a good athlete is not always a good coach. In order to be a
Mm,
coach, you have to have different, mindset, different set of skills, and everything. So I was worried about that, and over time, I kind of learned, and I was surprised when I discovered that I was very patient. Like, I'm in my real life, I'm a rather impatient person. I don't want people who like I walk fast, I speak fast, I like to do things very quickly, and I get nervous if somebody's slow and they're but with students, I realized that nothing could make me nervous. Like I would just like listen to people. I would understand that it's hard for them and they need this time to get adjusted, and I would always like give them this chance. And I realized that I have like additional skills for teaching. So teaching is very different from being a speaker, I would say. So yeah, it was like a lucky coincidence maybe in the beginning, and then like also I trained the skills and I tried to find new ways of teaching. So yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. That's perfect. Teaching is different, and you also have to understand the mind, how the mind works of a learner to be a
Mm-hmm.
coach.
Yep, exactly. I studied like when the pandemic started. I had a lot of time, because I get around a lot. I go out, I see places, and all of a sudden I was stuck at home and I couldn't go outside. And I decided to, and all the news and everything on social networks, it was depressing, and I decided to switch to something different.
Mm,
So I studied more scientific part of it. So I had some courses on neurolinguistics and how the brain works, and like neurology, all those things. So it kind of
yeah,
helped because I realized that some phrases that I would used to say, they had the basis in actual neurology. And I'm like, wow, this is so fun to realize that some things that you learned on your own experience through trial
yeah,
and error, they actually have background, and they actually make some sense. Because I
yeah. And you
always,
please keep going. Sorry.
like, for example, I'll give just one example. I always kept saying that understanding and speaking are two different processes, because when you understand, your mouth is shut and your brain, your computer has more capacity to analyze and process information. And especially when you learn English to Russian or English to any other language, when you listen,
Hmm.
it's one process. But when you speak, just the fact that your mouth is opening and it's you say something, your processor is actually, it pays a lot of attention to that. So that way the quality of your speech is different. So I kept saying
Hmm.
that for years, and I started learning the structure of the brain actually. And it was fun that in the brain you have two different regions, like the Broca area and the Wernicke area. So they are
Hmm.
separated. The Wernicke area is actually for perception, for listening and understanding the language, whereas Broca area is a different area that is responsible for speech. So actually, geographically, in your mind, in your brain, these regions are separate. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is
Hmm.
fun. This is interesting. That's the way I felt it is, and it really was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
You can also feel it when you speak. There are two different muscles. Like you can understand the language when somebody's speaking, but speaking is really different and it's more
Yep.
challenging.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So there are many, many different factors that are different, but somehow it's kind of the same box, but two different, parts of the box or two different holes in that box. So yeah, I guess that's very interesting to see how different people and different personalities, they have different combinations of different skills. So some people who don't speak too much in their own language, they are very good listeners. They can recognize the speech better than they can speak. And those people who are just talkers, who like to speak in their own language, they learn speaking faster sometimes, and they don't
Yeah.
pay too much attention to listening in some cases.
Yeah, it's about which muscle is stronger, I guess, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whichever you give more training to.
Yeah. You're also not using conventional methods of teaching.
Yeah, I went the experimental way. So for some reason, I didn't,
Yeah.
look around. I didn't see other, normally I would see and copy somebody's work, let's say, or maybe like a book or something. But for some reason, I just decided to do it on my own. Like, how would I explain these things? How would I want somebody explain these things to me so it's understandable? So somehow I worked out my own like way of seeing things and way of explaining things, which makes more sense because linguistics and philology is typically like a humanitarian, direction. It's not a precise science, let's say. But
Yeah.
my mindset was more analytical, and I always ask why. Like whenever somebody tells me you should do this, I always ask why, why, explain. That's why I
Hmm.
wanted to explain things the way I wanted to hear that. And I always tried to explain logically so that way people, so this is the system. They thought this way because it's easier here and here and here. But also it has some differences because you would have to adapt the system to the practical needs. And that's why we have some exclusions, like, for example, the irregular verbs. Russian people suffer a lot with irregular verbs. Oh, I have to memorize this whole table of words. But once I
Hmm.
explain some things logically, it makes it easier for them. And I also look for some methods that are going to be most effective. Why would you learn transcription to like a whole different alphabet to learn how to pronounce the words? If you have so many tools like Google Translate or anything where you could actually hear the file, or maybe you could watch the video on YouTube or whatever, or maybe you could use your own language to write down the way you would pronounce that word when you hear from other people. And how would I memorize how that word is written or pronounced? So I don't use transcription as it is because it was a traditional and very effective method in the past, but today it
Hmm.
loses its effectiveness. Why would you learn something that will take so much time? Just keep practicing and you'll spend the same amount of time, but it's going to be more effective and you'll get some more additional skills in the way.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what makes you a good teacher because, for someone who has actually learned the language and learned through their experiences, and now you're sharing your knowledge to help them to learn.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
comes out as helpful and effective. Yeah.
And I always use this phrase that it's my experience, like, and it kind of gives me this freedom and carte blanche for people. I'm not an like I don't like this mindset where people think that the teacher is an absolute, absolute level of knowledge. I always encourage them to learn more. I know this from my personal experience. I think this is better and it's more understandable, and I explain it so that way the person understands. But I always encourage them to look for more resources. You never know, maybe it's going to be more effective for you to learn from another source.
Mm,
So the more sources you have, the bigger picture you're going to have. So I always encourage to think of a teacher not as an absolute somebody who knows everything. I
mm,
don't know everything. I keep practicing every day, and it's like a skill you have to develop all the time. And I encourage them to always keep that in mind, and I share my knowledge, and that way they get that knowledge, but they always are free to get more knowledge from different perspectives, and that way they can always learn what is the truth and what is the best combination for them. So yeah.
yeah, sure. That's very educational for me as a coach. And, that thing that you said that everyone learns in a different way, and something that works for one person might not work for another. Something else
Definitely.
might work effectively for him. And that's what
Yep.
I hate about conventional learning. They provide the same thing to everybody and then they force it on them, and it's stressful, never effective.
Yeah, I guess so. But when we think about bigger systems, it makes sense because you want to unify all
Mm,
those things because you have to produce like a lot of papers, a lot of books, a lot of, materials. You have to teach a lot of teachers to do the same stuff, and they have to be motivated. If they are not motivated, it's going to be the most effective way to do that at a certain point. And systems, they don't adapt as quickly as individuals. So I think I can justify that to some point, but if I was to, I think that education is a number one priority for me. If you want to build a
mm,
better future, teach those people who are young, teach the kids how you want to see
mm,
that future, and eventually you're going to get that future. But unfortunately, in many countries, we have the system that is, we do this because it's been effective for 20 years, so we are going to keep doing that. And we have our standards and we want to follow those standards because they worked well for us. So that way they're not as adaptive, and it's fine. It's the way systems work because they're large and it's going to be more, you'll have more costs sometimes to change the system. And that's why they are hesitant to do that.
yeah, I feel compelled to change these systems, when I see how ineffective they are, really.
True. So, but the tricky part sometimes that is it's not in their interest sometimes. In If you
Mm,
think about it, in the government, you don't want to spend money for education that is going to teach people English language so that way they can leave the country and have
mm.
better contributions to another economy, not your economy. So sometimes if you think about it, there's also an
Ah,
ideological aspect of it. So yeah.
oh, that's what it is. Okay, so that's why they call it effective.
Yeah,
Not
I don't know.
effective for students, I
It's just
guess.
a
Yeah.
logical, yeah, path for me. Like I'm
Mm,
trying to figure out why things are as they are, and I think that
yeah.
they keep saying that it's so difficult to manipulate people who are educated, and you pay your budget, like you spend money for educating people, and it's going to be more difficult and more demanding for you as a government to rule these people. So sometimes
Hmm.
yeah, so I'm being a devil's advocate here. So
Yeah,
sometimes it makes sense if you
could
think
be.
about it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, could be. It could be. Uh, so, how in your program do you help students to learn the language? Like, what exactly do you do?
A lot of practice, actually. I keep talking to them, and so at first they're shocked and they're like, "Oh, how do I speak English? I don't know any of it."
Yeah.
Make mistakes. I always tell them, like, don't think that I'm a teacher and I'm like, following you and like judging you that you're stupid. You're making mistakes because they've seen that. Like some teachers, they're being like that at school. That's why they have this, traumas from their childhood
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
And I encourage them to make mistakes. I always tell them, you think that a foreigner thinks of you as a stupid person if you make mistakes. But in reality, they want to understand what you're saying, what you are trying to communicate. They want to get connection with you. That's why you have to think about the information, the communication in the beginning. And then after that, you can take that level to the next generation, next level. So it's
Mm.
never a problem if you make a mistake. That's fine. It's just my job is to show that mistake and correct it before it becomes a habit. So we have to form this good balance where people can practice from their day one and primitively try to explain things and take that from different to different practices where they come into a full circle and they go back to the same conversation but on the next level of their language evolution. So yeah, that's pretty much my practice. I just keep pulling different modules in different skills so that way after some time they can speak better and feel more confident.
That's a very good strategy, really. Yeah.
Practice, number one, that helps.
Yeah. I just had something on my mind. I'm just blanking. Oh my God.
That's okay.
Uh, yeah, it was about students. Okay, anyways, it will come to me. I'll ask.
Yeah.
But do you also help the students to overcome this fear? Okay, I remember. Wait, before that, you know that thing that you said, people want to communicate and they don't want you to be perfect. You know that the people in the mountains or when we travel, that thing that we talked about, sometimes that connection is also with no use at all of languages. We can connect,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. You
Exactly.
don't have to be
Exactly.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always give them this example. Imagine in your city, you meet a guy who's from another country. What is the first thing? Would you judge he's English, or would you judge he's Russian language? No, you're happy that he knows at least two words in your language, and you try to communicate. You want to help them. You want to communicate with them. Connect
Mm,
with them. That's number one. You never think about the language. You think about the
yeah.
language only on the very late step or a very late stage. If you have business, negotiations, or you have to have an interview or something. That's a very different level. But at the
Yeah.
beginning of your journey, you just have to remember that you want to have this real connection with people, and that's the number one goal, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Um, People really, it really stops them from even trying, the fear of making mistakes and what would people think.
Exactly.
I've been, yeah, I have had like 3 or 4 podcast interviews with language coaches, and all of them said the same thing, that make mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, you're not going to learn.
Mhm. And I would give another factor for that because we have the survival brain. Our brain is adapted to see negative things. So, we react to fear, to danger much more acutely than to any other, like joy or some positive emotions. So, it's very
Hmm.
important to make mistakes so that way you have this negative reaction. Oh, I made a mistake. So that way you can use that spike of emotions to kind of find motivation to fix that mistake, to correct that mistake. I still remember some situations where I made a stupid mistake and a person corrected me, and that way I would remember things much better. So
Hmm.
sometimes making mistakes is a very good way of not only lifting the general barrier that I'm making mistakes, nothing is ruined, the world is not ending, but at the same time you could also use that as a negative based motivation to correct things, and because it sticks in your memory better if you do that in every little situations, but in general you are not afraid of mistakes. That's a good combination, but it's always about the real combination and real numbers of the situations that you use. So yeah.
Yeah, make mistakes with a smile.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Do you how do you help people like to understand this? Do you actually help them overcome this with a practice?
I think with children, like it's hard to explain to children some things. Just show them the
Mm,
example. That's the easiest way. Just forget about, sometimes I just jump start into conversations. It's very easy once you get to know, even in the first class, for example, when you talk to them, they're always stressed because you're a new person for them, and they are afraid to make mistakes. And I start asking them simple questions like, oh, what's your name? What you do? Like, where you study and how old are you? And once and they're like, oh, I know this. I can answer these simple questions. They start
mm,
answering the simple questions, and there I ask them about their hobbies. What do you really enjoy? Like, what is the thing that you spend most time, like, doing, like outside any formal areas like school or job? And once they
right.
say something about their hobby, and just because I'm curious about all those things, and I have enough knowledge from all different spheres, I always keep asking about the details sincerely. Like, oh, I love like if somebody says computer games. Oh, I have a hobby, it's computer games. They're not
Mm,
used to people being interested in their in their hobby in details. So that's where I find this, resource where I ask them in details. Like, I'm really interested in what they're doing and why they're doing. I want to learn why they're interested and what is going to give them, like what positive like change it can bring in their life. And that I start asking, and there they forget about the barrier. They just keep, talking about the things that they enjoy, and that's where they forget about their balance, I mean their barrier. But it just depends on you. If you are really interested, if you're really curious about things, and if you do things sincerely, people just follow you, and they see this and they feel this, and that way they come to the same, wave. And it's much easier that way to really get the things, the job done.
yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's a great strategy that you use. And as you said, people are not used to, when someone is really interested in them and what they do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that really turns them on and just gets them talking, and this momentum just build into more momentum.
Yeah, and when you ask questions, it also like questions that are not standard, like the questions that evoke for thinking, evoke for
Hmm.
creativity. For example, I had a student the other day, like just 2 or 3 days ago, and she was nervous. She was like 10 years old or something, and I asked her,
Hmm.
"What do you love? What do you really like in your life?" And she said, "Oh, I like traveling." And I'm like, "Oh, okay.
Hmm. Wow.
Find in your house, what do you have that is connected to traveling?" And she started looking
Hmm.
around. Oh, she's like, "I don't know. I haven't been anywhere." I said, "Well, maybe you have a magnet on your fridge. Maybe somebody traveled to Turkey and brought that magnet. Maybe you have a map of the world. Maybe you have a plant that comes from." She said, "Oh yes, I have two palm trees in my house." And I started making jokes around that. Oh, you come home and it's like exotic palms that are palm trees that are inside your home and stuff like that. So it kind of makes them think differently, and that's part of the
Hmm.
education as well. Like when it gives you like different questions, they provoke for thinking, they provoke for creativity, and that way a person starts thinking in a different way, not
Right.
yeah, not as they
Hmm.
are used to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you're helping them to find out their own strategy that will work the best for them.
Exactly, yeah, and creativity in their thinking, creativity in their lives, it always helps, and it just makes your life better and more interesting. Because now we are all trapped in our houses, and it's very easy to fall into depression, and everybody's sick, and people are dying, and like the news are so mixed, and like you never know where the truth is. So sometimes just
Yeah.
finding creativity, finding that little island of your fantasy inside your world, like inside your house, sometimes it can be very helpful, and it can make you happier at least, and you learn
Yeah.
to see things differently.
100%. Totally agreed. Our mind needs a goal. It needs something to get after.
Yep.
And if you don't provide a goal, then it gets crazy all over the places. You don't know what to do.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
Do you have
Okay.
any other questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask. So this is also this also makes them makes it interesting and not stressful
Definitely, yeah. Not only
learning.
not
Yeah.
stressful, but I got messages from my students who were like my students 3 or 4 years ago, and they would still message me. Oh, I miss our classes so much. We talked about like these strange, unusual things that I never discussed with anybody else. So they still
Mm,
remember even the events and the mindset that I shared with them. Like, uh, I think that also changes and helps, like it creates this atmosphere where you have a very special place where you come and it's going to be like interesting and fun and creative, and it also helps to create this specific mindset, like not even a mindset, like a mood that is connected to learning and learning English in particular. So, which is very good. That's my goal. So even if a student leaves after 2 months, my goal is to create the system where they see English language as something more fun and interesting, and they want to continue their education even without me. So that's my goal, actually, to change their perception.
yeah, and then they also make voluntary efforts to learn. You do,
Yeah.
it's not forced.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's very important because it depends on the student how fast they are going to develop, how fast they're going to acquire skills. It's mostly at least 50-50. Sometimes it's even more towards the student. When they really actually thoughtfully do things, the result is always much better. And when they're thoughtful, they do something at home, they learn, they watch, they ask questions. That, yeah, I think that's a much better and faster pace when they feel responsibility. They're not just kids who expect to follow somebody, but they're those partners who ask questions, who want, who push you. Sometimes some students push me. I want faster, I want better, I want more, I want, give me something that is challenging. And that's very pleasant to see when some people are like that. They feel responsibility and they feel this motivation to do stuff.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to figure out though, to get people to do something, and
Mhm.
teachers seem to struggle with it.
Well, it's easier for me probably because I'm not a school teacher. I'm a like a tutor. When people come to
Yeah.
me, they pay money. That's why they have a little bit of a different level of motivation. And I always keep saying them, like, you can pay more money and come like for a longer period of time, but it's going to be more like mild, like milder level, where you don't have to
Mhm.
really do your homework and suffer from this pressure. But at the same time, it's your choice. If you want to spend, like, these are just different efforts. It's like putting like coins into your saving, like, account. It could be a bigger coin or a smaller coin. Anyway, it's one direction. You get more. And those coins could be different. You can buy those coins from me and I can, explain things in little details and take your hand and lead you through this world. Or you could be like a partner who plays on the same level, and who's going to do things more intensively, and that way you're going to actually put those coins yourself, which is always valuable, and it's always better because you have additional skills. So it's a personal choice. So
Yeah.
motivation is always a complex issue.
Yeah,
But
and to get people motivated. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it depends on them mostly. And if you can, I try to find those keys that are going to activate their motivation, because I want to create that feeling of how it feels to be the person who already speaks, who already knows stuff. And I show them a different perspective. Like, if that's a dentist, for example, a dentist or an architect. Like a couple of days ago, I had a guy who was an architect, and he had to apply for some, oh, actually Indian city. He would Dwari, I think something like Dwari, or something like a city in India. He would apply for a
Okay.
project that is there, and he wrote the text, and he just wanted to have some comments, and And I sent him different videos of like architectural like contests and interesting, projects and everything. Like he said, "Oh, this is exactly what I want." And I tell them
Hmm.
like, this is the world you could see if you had like English language and you could, get a different perspective. So that's also very important
Yeah.
to show you, to show the result that they can get, the difference.
Yeah. Now, are you doing anything to test them?
There's a standard Cambridge placement test that I have,
Mhm.
but I don't use it that often. If only if they want to pass the IELTS exam or like any local school exams or like any Cambridge exams. In that case, I really need to know which areas of grammar they have to know. But otherwise, I don't test them that much. It's like on an intuitive level. I just know where they are and I remember their progress and I keep track of their words, and I always come back to some like areas to check it. Like so, I want to teach them that it's always like an area I can always go back to. So like if I go back to some words that you learned before but you don't remember them, it means you keep losing some stuff, and that's why we have to keep in mind that it's going to be like it should be one picture, not a thing that you like acquire and forget. It should be like one puzzle, one picture that you have to have in mind.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So now, do you have these classes on a daily basis still?
I do, but it's been summer time, so I didn't have like so many classes in summer, and I didn't want to have many classes. Yeah, but now I think we're getting back into a study level, so I'm going to have a lot of classes. Like I guess from especially now I have so many online classes from different countries. So some people are from New York, and it's 7 o'clock in the morning for them, and they have one class of English language before they go to work. And some people are from Spain, and those are my students who come back from their English schools, and they have these tutoring classes afterwards. So it's 10 o'clock for me in the evening. So it's like it's all very hectic, and it depends on the like each given months and in each given year, like what's the combination of classes that I have. But yeah,
Mhm.
regularly, like on a daily basis mostly. Sometimes I don't even have the day off where I have no classes at all. Mostly it's just like some hours, but still every day.
Okay. And how do you schedule everything?
I kind of, I'm lucky. It kind of comes naturally. Whenever people want to have classes, I just give them the like schedule that I have, and I keep track of all classes. And because there are a lot of them, I can't memorize them anymore. So I use the scheduling, and I see how what times are best for me and them, and so it works best.
Okay. And you're being productive with other things in life as well? I want to know
Oh
how
my
you manage
gosh.
that, you know?
Sometimes it's too crazy and people keep telling me you have to focus on one thing. You can't know like all the things
Mm,
in the world, because sometimes one day I study like neurology, the other day I study biology, the other day I study artificial intelligence, the other day I have my events on VR in virtual reality. I have like these glasses. Somebody actually presented it to me because I shared my ideas and knowledge and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, you really should have this headset." I'm like, "Oh yeah, maybe one day I'm gonna buy it." I'm like, and the guy who actually sells them in Russia, he said, "Oh, I'm gonna send it as a present. You don't have to, pay anything for that." So it was
mm,
really nice to see people in different worlds where I can practice my English language as it is. I have these
yeah,
events in virtual reality where I speak to people. It's like a talk show, and yeah,
yeah,
that's, but it's just once a week. Otherwise, if I have like a free time, I go for a walk, or maybe I go for like outside so my eyes see something different and I get rest. But at the same time, I listen to different lectures, to different books, to a lot of stuff. So like I'm interested in pretty much anything, like starting from tarot readings, like tarot like what was it, cards, and finishing with quantum physics. Everything is interesting to me, and I wish I could have like 5 lives to fathom all
yeah.
the, yeah. But
You're trying
soon
to,
yeah, I'm trying to, but soon I'll have to
yeah.
focus, I think, on one or two things to have like actual interesting project that is going to pay off and have more results in the future. We'll see.
Yeah, well, even if you're doing multiple things at a time, maybe it's working out for you, I guess.
Yeah, for now it does. It does. Like every time I have like a bunch of, I have like around 10 different notebooks, like with different
Mm,
writings and stuff, and like apart from my like my electronic documents. So I managed to keep track of everything now, but still, like, and I always say, like, as long as I enjoy it, that's fine. Once I get tired or
yeah.
I can't focus or it takes too much energy, I'm gonna quickly get rid of the things that are not as effective in my life.
Mm,
And yeah, we'll
right.
see how
It's
it
not,
goes.
yeah, it's not so wise to keep pushing when you feel like, oh, I'm stressed or I'm done now. Sometimes we do too much and we feel like we are burnt out.
Yeah, I've been teaching for several, like, for 7 years, and I
Yeah.
know how it feels when you are about to burn out. Sometimes you can keep, like, working 10 hours, 12 hours a day, and it's fine, and like so many people and groups and everything is crazy, but because it's energizing, it's fun, it's interesting to talk to people, I forget about time, and it's fine. But after a while, if you feel that your energy is being depleted, you always have to be aware of that and sometimes take a step back so that way you don't lose this job after 1 year and you're
Mm,
tired and burned out. So I always try to keep
yeah.
that balance. And also, when you step away from your profession and do something else, it helps you. It gives you a different perspective to what you've been doing and gives you like new
Mm,
fuel for development.
yeah, that's very interesting. I love that. Yeah, and it also makes you productive, I guess, when you come back at your job. You know.
Yeah, yeah, switching. Sometimes my father used to say that the best rest is switching to another job. So after you
Mm,
studied, go, do something around house. And I would always like, why would he never let me just relax? But now
yeah.
I think maybe I'm a workaholic at some point. Well, people think I'm a workaholic. I don't think so, but still, it's switching to different things also helps. Like your time is stretching inside your head, so it's like instead of
Yeah.
just relaxing on the beach for one day, it's easier if you switch to something like for 6 hours and it's going to be like a full rest for you. Because if you switch to something that's different, that is, it takes you to some other places, you see things, you talk to people, it gives you this feeling that you had a lot of rest. So that's
Yeah. Yeah, that active rest is it's more effective, let's say, because when you're sitting and doing nothing, that's boring. And people like us that like to be occupied all the time, our brains are gonna say, I want to do something. I need to do something.
I
They'll
get
get
bored very
frustrated.
quick. I know. Well,
Yeah.
so far it's been working well for me, but I suppose that maybe at some point of life, I would probably prefer to lay somewhere on the beach. But
Hmm.
who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay for once in a while, but you can't lay on a beach for 2, 3 hours or maybe more than that. You get bored, maybe.
I think some
I
people
guess.
enjoy. I think that some people enjoy that because
Okay.
they work somewhere where they don't like their job. They
Hmm.
they are being manipulated by their boss or like their colleagues, and it's like toxic. That's why probably they get tired and they really want to step away from that and just relax and restart. Whereas I enjoy like every day of my work, and it's like it's not my job, it's my hobby, it's my something that I really enjoy. That's why I don't get tired morally, like psychologically. I don't get tired. That's why
Hmm.
after that, like I don't physically get tired as well because I sit around, and that's why for me I just choose some things that are going to compensate for that. So like if it's sedentary work, I would go and walk for some like places, or maybe I would just look around
Hmm.
and maybe if I don't have to speak, maybe I would listen to music or something like just a compensatory something. But because I'm not
Yeah.
stressed psychologically, because I chose my job, it's my choice, I enjoy it. That's why I don't need this, plant style vacations.
Right. Yeah, well, that's another thing that's amazing about you is you're doing something that you really want. Not many people do that.
I guess so, but I think that's the way people should be, and that's the way
Me too.
is. It's because first of all, it's effective. Because if you do something that you enjoy, you don't spend you spend a lot of extra time and extra effort to learn more, like, and to how do I be better, how do I do this. You don't even think of it as a level of your professionalism. You just enjoy it, and you that's why you kind of come up, you end up investing much more time and much more effort into it, and you are more inspired, and that's why it's effective. It's much more effective. So I think that's the best, I think, system, or the best decision that anybody could make. It's just like
Yes.
maybe it's harder to find people who are interested in some boring things, but still, I'm sure they are. So we'll see how it goes. I think in the future people will do that and will realize that, and the majority of people are going to look that way.
Yeah, we will help them do that.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
The more, the better.
Yeah, sure. But it also comes natural when you are doing what you want.
Mhm.
Yeah,
People
you're
see that.
all. Yeah.
People feel your energy, your vibe when you do something that you love. Your eyes are different. You look
Mm,
different. You're like so energized. And sometimes people just see that energy and they start thinking, "Wow, I would like if that person loves teaching English so much." Even if you didn't think
mm,
about, taking classes before, you start thinking, "Wow, I love that, vibe. I like that atmosphere that they have. I wish I could be there." And eventually you start thinking about, maybe I should learn English too. It's something useful, it's nice, and it's going to be fun.
yeah.
So that way you give push to somebody actually
Mm,
learning more, just because you inspire them with your energy and your enthusiasm. So that's a
yeah, it's
very effective,
contagious.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very effective system, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. You're very attractive. And when you do that, people it 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 can be one thing for you, but for someone else it's different. It's different for everybody. And they need to find out what it is for them and do what they really like or love doing.
Hmm. Hmm. That's
Yeah.
also a good example. They may come to you as just a bank worker, for example, yeah, just because they're
Mm,
tired of the same routine they have, this formality that they have. They may come to your classes and enjoy, like, just the fact that they learn English. But after some time, they see how you enjoy your work, and it's like your profession that was just your skill, and they start seeing that as an example too, and they start thinking, what can I do that is going to be my hobby, that I really enjoy, what I really love, and that could become my profession. And some people move
mm,
away from boring jobs that could be, honestly, it could be automized. Like today we have so many technologies to replace workers for many, many professions. And honestly, in the future, I think those technologies could create a lot of space for people just to do things they enjoy. Because,
mm,
accounting, I think that accounting could be easily automated. We just keep people busy and working, because humankind is not ready to be free, to be, have a lot of free time, and do things like, looking for your inner soul, or looking for yourself or
mm,
your
yeah.
callings. But eventually, I think gradually we're going to move towards that way, because some countries today, they have this system where people are not working, they just get paid from the government, and that way they have a lot of more free time. But because of the society that is more ready to that, more, it gives more opportunity to look for things that you enjoy. I think that's, yeah, I think that will eventually happen, some, like, in the majority of countries, not all over the world, but still.
Yeah, hopefully that happens. And even if, even right now, they just need to spend enough time with themselves and not be distracted all the time. Because,
Hmm.
for people that are at jobs that they don't like, you spend all day at job, and when you come
It's
home, you
exhausting.
don't have any energy. Exactly, it's exhausting. And you just indulge into something, watching something on Netflix or television, and the next day is the same day,
Yeah, I know so many people like that, but still, I think it's, yeah, sometimes it's just your decision. If you really, really see more, and on the other hand, sometimes people are passive and they keep doing that because they don't see any other option and they don't have energy to switch to something. But once you see more and more examples of people around you who do that, after a while you come to this conclusion, wow, so many people do things that they enjoy and they make money, and sometimes more money than I do in my
Yeah.
tedious boring job. Maybe I should switch to that, and they can make that leap of faith, as you say, to maybe quit that job and have like 1 month
Yeah.
doing something, or maybe spend nights doing something that they really enjoy, and being really exhausted for 6 months, but eventually they could switch to their real profession, to their real calling,
Yeah.
seamlessly, without these shocking switches of jobs and stuff.
Yes,
So yeah.
totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are an example of that. You're a real example of that. People should look at you.
Yeah, I think I was rather like a pioneer in that, I would say, because in my generation, like in my peers, their parents still thought that if you finish the economical, you have a degree in economy, the best job you can get is a bank, like work in a bank, or maybe an accountant in some company. And
Mm.
it was ridiculous to me that they didn't get paid any money. Like, they would get paid less money than, like, sometimes twice or three times less than if you work as a tutor or anything. And I couldn't get that because some people value prestige maybe more than an actual, like, actual love to their jobs, or maybe an actual income that they may get. I think that's
Mm.
also a different problem that we have in Russian society.
In all societies, I guess, not just
Yeah.
there.
Well, I understand in Russia because sometimes if you work in such structure that doesn't give you official, money, sometimes some people they make money on bribes if it's like there's a lot of corruption, and sometimes people kind of have that in mind when they choose professions like that. They're not going to get
Mm.
paid in their official workplace, but they're going to get bribes from people to solve problems or to make, certain decisions. Maybe that's their idea, but this is my way. This is what I chose. I want to live
Yeah.
an honest life where I enjoy what I do and I create something. I not just a service where you do things and it's, by the end of the day you can't remember what you created in the world. And yeah, I decided that this is my path, and I was very lucky to be able to actually, almost be successful. I would say successful in this, yeah, but still,
Sure.
yeah, finding my own niche and be happy there. Yeah, I think I'm very lucky to
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's amazing. And when you're doing it, you feel it like it's really, really meaningful.
Yeah, yeah. Every person has something that inspires them and something that they can really do well. For example, decoration has never been my thing. Like on when we set the tables, and some people they cut the fruits, and it looks amazing and so beautiful and aesthetic. I can't do that. And when I see people who are able to do things like that, or maybe who can cook something like amazing cakes, or maybe they can do makeups, or they can create some craft things. That's pretty cool. And you never
Yeah.
know what can become your talent if you don't pay enough attention to that. If you don't put enough creativity, you will never see what you are capable of. And that's why I think it's very important for people to see more examples of such cases where people just pay enough attention to what they love and they become extraordinary in their skill. And that way, that mastery, that emotion, that energy attracts people, and it creates value. People are ready to pay for something that is maybe not very valuable to some other people, but because it's something unique that people created, and it's something of a very good quality and high skill, it creates value of its own. So like I think today people buy experiences. They don't buy like products anymore because we live in a very
Mm.
abundant world. And I think that's very important to keep in mind, that sometimes you can create something super valuable and something unique, and that's going to be valuable to other people too, not only you. But I think that's
Yeah.
very important. Yeah, to
That's
find
really
that thing.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you need for that, you need to keep an open mind and keep trying new things.
Yeah, and to be hardworking in some point, I think, because we millennials are rather lazy, as they say. So I think it's very important to find something that you're ready to invest a lot of effort into. It could be like
Yeah.
time, or it could be just effort, but still, if you are hardworking, your skill is going to get better inevitably. So.
Wow. That's an important thing for people to hear. Yeah.
Yeah,
They believe
because
that skill is everything. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, finding something unique, put in your skill, but it kind of comes naturally. If you enjoy it, you're going to put some skill and time and effort in it,
Yeah.
investments.
Yeah. And before you do, this is what I think, okay, it can be wrong. Um, find out what is it that you're doing. You're happy with whatever it is that you are doing, whether it doesn't matter if you remain poor or rich, you should be happy doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you a lot, but still being rather pragmatic. I think the recent research they find that people still need some level of comfort. Once they get that level of
Yeah.
comfort, they become even more happy. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it's very
Yeah,
important to point.
once you figure out what it is, you can figure out a way to make more money because we're humans, we're creative, but you need to identify that thing that you're happy. Doesn't matter. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing
Yeah.
this to be really happy, and then I can find out a way to make more money. It's possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you. That's
Yeah.
number one. You have to do something not because of the money. Money should not be the first motivation. If you are motivated to do things just because you enjoy it, or because it makes you happy, or because you want to see your ideas come true, that is valuable. That's where you put your real energy and uniqueness. That's why it's later on money comes, naturally to them.
Yeah. Okay, we gotta wrap this up. Before we wrap this up, you just said that it's a hobby for you to decorate with plants. I saw some stories on your page.
I have a lot of actually, yeah, different skill. Well, it's been an escape within the pandemic time. I wanted to see some greens
Okay.
in my house, so I had succulents. They're like cactus or maybe something like different plants. They look nice. And it's easy to take care of
Yeah.
them, so I have them. And my second probably like creative skill is that VR events that I have, like talk shows. So I practice my English skill, and also I create a community where people come and they share their ideas, their mindsets, and like the conversations that are very profound. They're not just like surface level. That's why I enjoy these events as well. So these are two hobbies that I have, and maybe one day one of them can become my next profession. Who knows?
Sure. Yeah, we gotta allow for the possibility of that. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I love this world. There are so many opportunities.
Yeah. They're beautiful, really, and it's great what you're doing with the communities, creation of communities.
Hmm. Hmm. I need it again. This is something that I enjoy in the first place, and that's why I enjoy seeing that people come joining, and there are like 15 people standing around me and talking about the same things, and they thank me for creating the space where they can just come and have that meaningful conversation, and I really enjoy that, like, double bonus.
Sure, and people love it too, This place is nothing but fun and
Mhm.
education, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's my purpose in life, to enjoy things that
Amazing.
educate other people and help them change and transform into a new reality.
Purpose. I think one podcast is not enough for us, Zenith, you know?
Yeah, so let's wrap up for this time. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to
Yeah.
talk to you, and I hope that one day I'll be proud to say that, oh, I know this guy. Yeah, we had a podcast together. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. One last thing we need to talk about. What is your message for people learning English out there?
The world is getting more open and is getting more creative, I think, and I'm very excited about the future. So English is one of the very popular keys and ways of getting into that world and getting integrated into that amazing space of possibilities, no matter where you are. And you think, wow, I live in this small city and I have no chance to get a good job or this and that. But sometimes if you, even with simple tools like the internet or like, you know, English language, sometimes you can open the whole world of new possibilities and opportunities. And once you get to that world, the world is, you know, has no limits. So yeah, I think that English language is a key to a different personality, to a different world of opportunities, I would say. So yeah, if that's not enough motivation, I don't know what's the good motivation.
Yeah, I love that. I hope people will be motivated after hearing your message. Okay, tell these people where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on Instagram just to see. Well, mostly it's in Russian because I sometimes I'm lazy and I share my personal stuff in Russian. But still, on Instagram, you can see the personality, my approach to things, and sometimes have some fun texts or some useful information there. Also, like you can find me as Azinat English, Azinat. English is obviously on Instagram. Or if you practice anything in virtual reality or you have just a computer, you could access AltSpace. It's a VR platform you can use, you know, in 2D mode using your computer. So you can also find me there. If you register on that place, you can find me as Azi there. So that's, and Theory of Everything. That's my talk show event. If you want to join, it's every Fridays, like I think 8 o'clock my time. Time zones, they're all different, so it's easier for
Yeah,
you to find it on the schedule. So yeah, Friday evening, I believe it's going to be 10 o'clock, yeah, like Indian time, or 9, 10 o'clock. So yeah, in the evening. So
yeah,
those are
sure.
two main platforms where you can find me.
Yeah, and they'll also find a link to all of that in the description, so no worries.
Yay, thanks.
All right, it was just great having you, Zenith, and
Thanks
I
for
learned so
having me.
much.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
inviting me. I always enjoy when I see and meet people from other countries and we can talk about these things and, you know, compare different perspectives.
yeah, me too. It was great, and maybe we'll need to make a couple more episodes, I guess.
Why not?
to
Why not? Why not? I don't mind.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
Yeah. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Okay. I'm stopping the recording.
Yeah.